There we go. Hey everyone, thanks for joining me. Always introducing you to new people to take you around amazing places. So I've got Colin here from Totally Seattle Tours. Hey Colin.
Hi there. Thank you, April.
Yeah, so what inspired you to start Totally Seattle Tours?
Yeah, it's a good question. I have been working as a concierge at the Four Seasons Hotel here in Seattle for about almost 7 years, and it's kind of like I had set up a lot of itinerant people out to go have a good time. They get all the information from me, and then they leave, and then I'm kind of like still stuck behind the desk. And I was kind of like, I'd like to go out there with them. I'd like to show them
Yeah,
around and have fun and be out in the sunshine and do all that. So yeah, that and just kind of an entrepreneurial itch was just like, let's get out from behind this desk and this hourly wage and try something new, try something that I feel passionate about. That and also just the desire to share my love of my home city and the Pacific Northwest and the beauty and kind of bring it to life. People can show up
yeah.
in a new city, walk around and see stuff, but if they don't know the stories and the history behind it, then it's just something pretty to look at. But if you can bring it to life and make it memorable, then it becomes an experience.
Yeah. And Seattle's known for a lot of great food places. We all know coffee kind of springboarded there from Starbucks, but do you have one favorite coffee shop that you'd like to share if people visit?
Um, I really like to say that anywhere you go that's independent, anywhere you go that's not Starbucks, you're going to be winning. But if I had to pick one, I'd probably say Cafe Vita at near the Seattle Center because not only is it a great independent coffee shop, it's also where a local independent radio station broadcasts. So you can go in there. There's also a little record shop in
Oh,
there.
nice.
There's really cool murals and artwork. And then, yeah, the DJs are actually broadcasting from their studio 50 feet away. And they'll have live performances in there sometimes. It's always something fun and new. So I think that's probably the most unique cup of coffee you get. And I always end my Pike Place Market, Seattle Center walking tours at that coffee shop and grab everybody a cup of coffee to end the tour.
Yeah, that sounds super unique. What a great thing to do.
Yeah, it's a really cool place, and I actually I worked at that radio station when I was in college, when it was in the basement of the University of Washington. They've since moved to a bunch of different studios, but now it's there and it's very accessible to the public. And of course, they're broadcasting what's being played on the radio in real time.
Oh, cool. So I know there's a lot of food markets in Seattle. Are they still doing like the food trucks and stuff like that? Is there an area, like one market that you would recommend to travelers?
I mean, everybody knows Pike Place Market, and that's really the end all be all of places to get food and unique experiences. They don't have food trucks there, they have independent vendors and things like that. If you weren't going to go to Pike Place, I'd say like the Melrose Market up in Capitol Hill would be really cool because that's surrounded by a lot of great restaurants and kind of has their little bakery and charcuterie, their little butcher shop right there. So that's much smaller, but also unique and boutique.
Yeah, something different if you've already hit Pike Place, it sounds like. Yeah,
Yeah,
branch
everybody
out.
knows Big Place.
Yeah. So what are some of your favorite day trips outside of the city?
There's a lot. There's a lot to choose from. I think, as most people who come to Seattle, they stay in downtown because that's where the majority of the hotels are. So, I think one of the best day trips is to go over to my hometown of Bainbridge Island. You take a 35-minute ferry boat that's $9 round trip, and it drops you right off in the middle of this very pedestrian friendly downtown, small downtown Main Street area. You can walk up and down. There's cool little shops and all independent businesses. You're no Burger Kings or anything down there. So you're gonna see a lot of really cool stuff. You get that ferry boat ride. From the front door of your hotel to the time you return to the front door of your hotel is usually about 4 to 8 hours, depending on how much time you choose to spend on the island. You just got to time out the ferry schedule.
Yeah. Oh, that sounds like a great day trip to take.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
fantastic. There's also this 150-acre gardens up north. You can take a bus there. You could, if you drove, you could drive onto the ferry too. So if you had a car, you could drive on and then park there. It's about $25 and you can walk around. It's called the Blodell Reserve. That's
Mm.
one of the highlights of Bainbridge Island. Certainly gonna leave a lasting impression if you were just there for one day.
Yeah. Wow. So there's a lot of rainy weather, as we know, in Seattle. So that's just part of it.
Now, subjectively speaking, we're like top 11 in rainfall. Like we're number 11. DC, Atlanta, Boston, New York, Miami, they all get more rain than us. We only get 37 inches of rain per year. We just get far less sunny days. So it's more
Okay.
like gray and dreary with a little bit of rain all the time, but it doesn't make for a lot of fun outdoor activities.
Yeah, but still, it's so weird how you guys got stuck with the whole rainy type, when you said you're like number 11, you
Yeah,
know. I think it's just a little bit of a misnomer then. I mean, if it's just cloudy, you can still be out and be walking around and not worry about getting drenched. But
I'd say like, if you ever were in an East Coast rainstorm, it comes and it comes down hard. And it'll rain as much in an hour there as it will in a week here. But we'll have 7 days straight of rain. Nobody here carries umbrellas. Let's put it that way. Everybody just has a Gore-Tex rain jacket. They put their hood on when it starts raining, they take it off. But carrying an umbrella around is just a pain. It's never really necessary.
yeah, I always tell people don't pack an umbrella. It just seems like it takes up extra space and
Yeah,
not
yeah,
worth
you'll
it.
be fine. You'll be fine. Invest in a good rain jacket.
So, what do you think are some of your favorite indoor activities?
Hmm. Um, Definitely museums, definitely a lot of art stuff, going to see music shows. But if I were to pick one, and if you were in town for just one day, it was rainy, you had to find something to do, you go to the Seattle Center and go to the Dale Chihuly Garden and Glass exhibit. And, if you had extra time, go to the Museum of Pop Culture too, which is an
Oh,
incredible building designed by Frank Gehry, with a permanent display of Jimi Hendrix, Nirvana, Pearl Jam, Soundgarden, and then rotating displays. Right now, there's something about the animators who did the movie Coraline. So they have a big display on. It was just the big hip hop one. The Pearl Jam exhibit just left, but yeah, always great stuff in there too. But yeah, the Chihuly one, incredible.
yeah, that does. That sounds amazing. I forgot that was up there. That's amazing. So,
Yeah, he's from here. He grew up in Tacoma, so they kind of did that as a tribute to his career.
yeah. So, do you have places for, craft beers kind of blown up too? Is that something that's kind of happening in Seattle as well, or?
Yeah, I think we're like the number two, craft beer microbrew city in America, just behind Portland, who's just to the south of us. So it's certainly popular up here. Um, I really like Georgetown Brewery. I think they do some really good stuff, particularly Manny's. There's also Mac and Jack's Brewery over in Redmond. But I'm more of a cider guy.
Okay.
So I really like Seattle cider. I think they do a fantastic job, and they have tasting rooms, are all around their breweries.
That sounds fun too. So, and probably coming from all the local, because I know there's a lot of growing that happens right outside of Seattle. So,
Yeah,
local
we're
stuff.
um, big producer of hops and barley and stuff like that over in Eastern Washington, and we actually produce the second most grapes in the country, behind California, which is light years ahead of us. But yeah,
Wow,
we grow. There's a lot of vineyards over in Eastern Washington.
nice. Do you have favorite festivals and events that happen throughout the year that people might want to make plans around? Because that's something you probably have to think ahead about.
Yeah, I'd say really the most popular ones would be Bumbershoot, and Bumbershoot always takes place over Labor Day weekend. which is always a really busy weekend. They pretty much shut down the whole Seattle Center, which is
Oh
where
wow.
Space Needle, Chihuly, Mopop, all that. So the fairgrounds in there, which was the fairgrounds for the 1962 World's Fair, they shut that down, and all those venues, all those stages just become back. So that all stopped during COVID. They didn't
Yeah.
festival for 2020 and 2021, and yeah, they didn't do it last year either in 2022. It was just getting so big. It was outgrowing the space. So they kind of did a reset. Now they're relaunching it this year with a new look, smaller, not as huge a name bands. Like I used to go see, I saw the Ramones play at Bumbershoot. I saw the Sex Pistols play at Bumbershoot. I saw Beck and yeah, huge names. They get
Wow,
Dean
yes.
Harper. They get really, really big names to play the main stage, and I think it was just too much. It's 4 day festival, so now they're paring it down to 3 days. And yeah, we'll see how it is. A little bit more focused on stand-up comedy and local independent artists, but that's a really cool one. And then that's Labor Day. Memorial Day coming up is Folklife, and Folklife
Oh,
is yeah, Folklife is a really cool, folk art show. Not so much centered around music, but centered around arts, food, entertainment with, musicians playing on stages. And that also takes place at the Seattle Center Fairgrounds.
wow. That sounds actually really unique. Something that's kind of different, the folk art and probably a lot of the craft type, making things kind of thing that you
Yeah,
find.
yeah, yeah. And then there's also the Bite of Seattle, which I'm not sure when they're going to launch that again, but that was always just the food, the food festival. All the restaurants would go down there and put a booth and serve two items. That one was that's really fun.
Yeah. So I know there's a lot of concern, unfortunately Seattle's like a lot of cities right now, they're experiencing, things have just changed and, we're getting all cities are kind of getting a bad rap for tourists and travelers that aren't familiar. Are there certain areas you would recommend that visitors stay in if they're concerned about their safety, or do you want to take a minute and speak on that a little, or?
Yeah, I'd be happy to. And it is, I'm not gonna lie,
Yeah.
it is an issue. It's homelessness and, rising crime is really an issue wherever there is scarcity of housing
Yeah.
and rising real estate prices and rising population, and we have all three of those in droves. So um, I will say that it was really, really bad. It was very apparent and visual during COVID. Last year, we elected a new mayor who took some time and, realized this is not a good look.
Yeah.
And while, eliminating and, the homelessness crisis and getting everybody services and housing is a monumental task, I think somebody in the city council, just proposed a plan and said it was going to be like an $8 billion plan to fully fund it and get it done. And they're like, yeah, that's not
Yeah.
happening. But,
Yeah, that's
but this mayor has made it far less visual. So as a tourist coming in, you don't see it nearly as much. And I just did a tour the other day, and people are like, "Oh, we heard all this stuff,
yeah.
it's just so bad, and we were going to fear. We've never felt safer, and the city's actually really, really clean." However, if there was one place I would say to avoid, and most of it's after dark, most of it's late
Right.
at night, it would be Pioneer Square, which
Okay.
is sad because it's one of the most historically significant places in the city. It was the cradle of the city, so it's where everything started. It's where all the sawmills were back in the 1850s through the 1870s. But even back then, it was a really rough part of town. It actually was the first place ever referred to as Skid Road,
Oh,
and
really?
that continues to the day. It kind of denoted a rough part of town that you didn't want to spend too much time in, and that's still kind of true to the day. But then the last place I'd say, and I tell this to all my tour guests, right in downtown, Third Avenue is really the hot spot for you know things you don't want to see. It's kind of
Yeah,
like Fourth, Fifth, Sixth Avenue, a lot of shopping. That's clean, Pike Place Market, First Avenue, Second Avenue, that's fine, but it all kind of gets squished into Third Avenue. And, I give the police props, they're doing what they can, but, it's,
yeah, it's
yeah, I could talk about it all day. There's a lot to talk about, but the fact that there's no silver bullet to solve the problem, otherwise everybody would just solve that problem.
right,
We've been throwing money at the issue for years, and you know, it's baby steps. Hopefully,
right.
there.
Right. And I think just as travelers, we just need to be aware. Just again, make smart
Yeah.
choices. Reach out to you if they're thinking about coming and just ask, what are some hotels or areas if they're okay. If you're looking at Airbnbs, get out on Google Maps and just see, are you going to feel comfortable walking from wherever that Airbnb may be to where you want to be? Is that, how you feel about that?
No,
So,
and I think it's most of the time you're going to be pleasantly surprised. It's going to be way blown out of proportion, and it's all a matter of perspective, right? Like
right.
I have tour guests from San Francisco who are like, "Yeah, okay, I've seen much worse," and then I have tour guests from the Midwest who are like, "Oh my gosh, I've never seen anything like this." So it's yeah, what you're used to is going to determine how bad you think it is.
Right, right. So, what are some outdoor activities that you suggest for guests if they're coming and want to spend some time outside? Is there like biking or boats or, I mean, the waterfront behind you in your picture is beautiful. So,
Yeah. No, it's gorgeous. And it really kind of springs to life in May through October. I always say on our first 70-degree day, all the trolls crawl out from under their rocks under the bridge and, take their shirts off. And, but that's the time to really get outside. But even in the wintertime, I mean, downtown Seattle is, you know, a 30 to 45-minute drive from Snoqualmie Pass. So
wow,
if I woke up tomorrow and wanted to go snowboarding, I could hop on the freeway and be on a chairlift in 45 minutes.
wow.
So that's really nice. And then there's other resorts that are a little further away. Um, but yeah, outdoorsy stuff. If you were here on like an August day and it's 85 degrees and no humidity and it's just perfect outside, I think renting a kayak or an electric boat on Lake Union would be a
Hmm.
very unique experience. Um, yeah, that would be my top choice.
Nice, cool. Well, you've shared a lot of great things to do in Seattle, Colin, but you're the specialist, so tell people how to reach out to you if they want to hire you for the day or share a little bit on that and how they can find you. That would be great.
Absolutely. Yeah, my website is totallyseattle.com, and that's going to be, the wealth of information where you're going to get contact information. You'll be able to make inquiries via, email. If you have specific questions, you'll be able to see pricing and day tour options. For when you're in town, we don't run any public tours. We're not selling tickets to try and fit 14 strangers on a bus and show them Seattle, on a scripted tour that makes all the same stops every day. Everything's private. Everything's going to be a private pickup where you are. It's going to be a drop off where you want to be. If you want to end at the Space Needle and go up to the top and not waste all the time on tour, waiting in line, we can do that. And then you just make your way back to your hotel. So that's, yeah, private, luxury bespoke experiences is what we're all about. If you want to just reach out directly via email, it would be info@totallyseattle.com.
Great. Thank you so much, Colin. It was really informative, and I'm sure some really special experiences for those that want to come to Seattle.
Well, thank you very much for having me, April. It was a blast.
Thanks.